Imagine creating one of Italy's most iconic dishes using stale bread, leftover vegetables, and ingredients that, well, literally nobody else wanted. I mean, that is exactly how Ribollita was born. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're looking at a humble peasant soup from Tuscany that didn't just feed families, it survived wars, economic crises, dynasties, and entire empires. And the crazy thing, today, you'll find it on the menus of some of Italy's absolute finest restaurants. But as you'll see, its story starts with ordinary people who are simply trying not to waste a single scrap of food.
Okay, let's dive right into this because the central paradox of this dish is just fascinating. Florentine nobles eventually tasted this peasant concoction and realized, wait a minute, this is absolute culinary gold. So they ended up stealing the recipe and bringing it straight into their wealthy estates. But to really understand how a dish made of rock-hard bread and wilting vegetable scraps made the leap to a prized luxury delicacy, we have to look at exactly what it is and where it came from. You see, long before Tuscany became famous for rolling vineyards and luxury villas, its farmers were absolute masters of survival.
Now, you might be wondering what the name actually means. Ribollita literally translates to reboiled. It originates directly from the tough, unforgiving Tuscan countryside, especially around Florence. Centuries ago, peasant farmers simply could not afford to throw anything away. This wasn't about being trendy or eco-friendly, this was a matter of strict survival. So this dish became the ultimate champion of cucina povera, which means poor kitchen cooking. The whole philosophy here is about maximizing flavor and sustenance from the cheapest, most accessible stuff you can find. Without prime cuts of meat or expensive spices, they had to rely entirely on technique, time, and honestly, sheer resourcefulness.
Picture this. A peasant family centuries ago would cook a massive, fairly basic vegetable soup on day one. It was good, it was warm, but it was just soup, right? Here's the trick though. They intentionally made way more than they could eat. Why? Because on day 2, day 3, and beyond, they'd take that leftover soup and reheat it over the fire. With every single reheating, the liquid reduces and the flavors, they get drastically deeper, richer, and way more complex. But the real stroke of genius, the way they stretched those leftovers to feed the whole family again, was taking their stale leftover country bread, ripping it up in chunks, and throwing it right into the pot. And looking at what actually goes into that pot, this is what I like to call the anatomy of almost nothing. To feed 6 to 8 hungry people, you don't need anything fancy. You just need your basic aromatics, onions, carrots, celery. Add in some hearty greens like kale and cabbage, some cooked cannellini beans, vegetable stock, and of course, that absolutely crucial day-old rustic bread. Finish the whole shebang with olive oil, salt, and pepper. That is literally it. These are incredibly affordable, completely unpretentious ingredients, yet when you bring them together with the right technique, they transform into something that genuinely transcends the individual parts.
So, how does this actually come together? Well, the process builds step by precise step. First, you establish your base by slowly cooking the onions, carrots, and celery in a really generous amount of olive oil until they're soft and fragrant. Then in go the heavy hitters, potatoes, cabbage, and kale. You let those soften just a bit. Next, you stir in the cannellini beans and crushed tomatoes. Once you pour in the vegetable stock, you bring it to a gentle simmer, and honestly, just leave it alone for 45 minutes until those vegetables are meltingly tender. Finally, you tear that rock-hard rustic bread right into the simmering liquid. It immediately absorbs the broth and swells up into this incredibly thick texture. But hold on, there is one final crucial step to this entire process. This right here is what separates a pretty good soup from authentic Tuscan Ribollita. It's the magic step, resting overnight and gentle reheating. You do not eat Ribollita the moment you finish cooking it. No way. You have to step away from the pot. As it sits overnight, the starches in the bread break down even further. The kale and cabbage fully surrender their earthy flavors to the broth, and the beans get unbelievably creamy. When you wake up the next day and gently reheat it, that is when the true alchemy of cucina povera has actually taken place. Now, because the ingredients are so incredibly simple, you absolutely have to respect the technique. There are a few cucina povera pitfalls you definitely want to avoid. First up, using fresh bread. Just don't do it. It turns to absolute mush and dissolves entirely. You need day-old, stale bread to hold its structure. Second, skipping the resting time. If you rush it, you're missing out on that dramatic flavor boost that only happens overnight. Third, adding too much liquid. Authentic Ribollita is not a thin, watery soup. Actually, scratch that. It shouldn't even feel like soup. It should be thick, hearty, and almost stew-like. And finally, skimping on the olive oil. A generous drizzle of high-quality extra virgin olive oil right over the top of your bowl before you eat is absolutely essential. And when you avoid those pitfalls and stick to tradition, the sensory experience is genuinely mind-blowing. You take these cheap, humble ingredients,
and the final product is just pure, unadulterated comfort. The beans are creamy, the vegetables are impossibly tender, you have this rich, deeply savory tomato flavor woven throughout the whole thing, and that stale, tough country bread, it transforms into something incredibly silky and luxurious. Nothing about this dish feels fancy, yet everything about it tastes extraordinary. It's the ultimate proof that great cooking isn't about throwing expensive ingredients at a pan. It's about making the absolute most of exactly what you have.
Which brings us to a really beautiful cultural insight. Over in Tuscany, ribollita isn't viewed with that slight disappointment we sometimes feel when we're eating leftovers. Not at all. It is viewed as smart cooking. Many Tuscans firmly believe that the second-day version is vastly superior to the first. It's so beloved that families will intentionally overcook on day one. Like, they make extra on purpose just so they can experience the joy of the reboiled version the next day. That philosophy is exactly why this dish has survived for centuries and actively rewards patience.
So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to turn this over to you. What is the best leftover meal you've ever eaten? Is there a dish in your house that is secretly way better on day 2? Let us know down in the comments. I really want to read through those. And secondly, be honest. Would you try a thick, hearty soup made fundamentally from stale bread? Yes or no? Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed diving into this incredible Tuscan food story today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we continue deconstructing the world's most iconic dishes. Until then, keep exploring, keep cooking, and keep tasting the world.